This is IAQ Radio, Indoor Air Quality Radio, the voice of the indoor air quality industry, with your hosts, Radio Joe Hughes and the Z-Man, Cliff Zlotnick. And now, Radio Joe Hughes.
Good day and welcome to IAQ Radio Plus. This week is episode 610, and we're going to discuss the best and worst of 2020, and then hopefully get into 2021 with some predictions for next year. We've got all the reps from our select group of sponsors. We really appreciate them. Without them, we couldn't continue to do the show. And I want to mention also Gray Wolf Sensing Solution, our newest sponsor. Let's thank our sponsors, John. Our marquee sponsor, Instascope, the future of IAQ assessment, unlimited sampling with instant results at instascope.co. Association sponsors are the American Industrial Hygiene Association at AIHA.org, the American Conference of Governmental Industrial Hygienists at ACGIH.org, the Cleaning Industry Research Institute at CIRIScience.org, the Indoor Air Quality Association at IAQA.org, the Restoration Industry Association at restorationindustry.org, the Institute for Inspection, Cleaning, and Restoration Certification at IICRC.org, and Healthy Buildings America 2021 at HB2021-America.org. Industry sponsors are AEML Laboratories at AEMLINC.com, Particles Plus at particlesplus.com, and Healthy Indoors Magazine at healthyindoors.com.
And now you can win a cool prize. It's time for the IAQ Radio Trivia question. Be the first to correctly answer. Simply email your answer to czlotnick@cs.com. Or if listening live, just text your answer from your computer. And now, here's the Z-Man.
Hello, everyone. Congratulations go out to Don Weeks, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, who was first to identify two Greek words, paios meaning child and iatros meaning doctor and healer, from which the term pediatrics is derived. The IEQ Radio Trivia question for today, Friday, December 18th, 2020, has been sponsored by Ideas, the solution chemistry company providing unique solutions to odor removal, surface cleaning, and decontamination problems. Here is today's IAQ Radio three-part trivia question. It's about this day in history. Name the Soviet Union leader, the Rolling Stone, and the Goodfellow who share today as their birthday. Back to you, Joe.
All right, we're going to go in reverse alphabetical order because I just feel like being a little different, and I think people who have last names that are toward the end of the alphabet always get left out on that. So we're going to start with Mark Springer from RIA today, but then we'll have Larry Sloan representing AIHA, Richard Shaughnessy for Healthy Buildings America 2021, Phil Rauscher from ACGIH, Kevin Pearson from IICRC, Ron Morrison from Instascope, John Lapotere from the Indoor Air Quality Association, Bob Crow from Healthy Indoors Magazine, Tom Grillo from Particles Plus, John Donnie from the Cleaning Industry Research Institute, Christy Brueggemann from AEML Labs, and Rick Stonier from Gray Wolf could not make it. I think I got everybody. If I didn't, somebody will let me know. All right, let's start with Mr. Springer out of Montana. Mark is the president of Dayspring Restoration and also the RIA president. Mark, what's your best and worst for 2020?
Well, Joe, thank you. Appreciate you inviting me to this very distinguished panel. What sure is great to see all these faces together, and appreciate all you guys do to inform the indoor air quality indoor air quality industry in general. So certainly been an interesting year this year, probably more interesting than any of us have ever experienced before. Certainly I'll speak from the RIA perspective and say the worst thing for us was, for the first time in 74 years, having to cancel our annual convention. We fought that for a while. We were, I remember thinking when we were first talking about this, and at the very beginning phase of about March, we were around 40 days out from our annual convention. And there was all this discussion about, are we going to be able to have this event? And I remember saying, guys, this is going to blow over. We're gonna be able to have our event. We're not canceling our convention. We've never canceled our convention before. The industry needs to be together. And of course, I couldn't have been more wrong than what happened there. So that was a very, very difficult decision. The financial ramifications of that for RIA are profound. I mean, that's the single largest line item in our budget is our annual convention. To the best side, I think that event, we see that initially as a negative. Ultimately, I think there was a lot of positives that came out of that. I mean, for one, RIA quickly had to shift and say, okay, we can't have a business model that is so dependent on an annual convention. And so we had, in a lot of ways, to pivot and to make sure that we had new and fresh ways to communicate with our constituents and to be able to bring them the content that they otherwise would have had in a virtual environment. And so we ended up hosting this year not one, but two virtual conventions, both of which were very, very well received. I think our members got some of the best information that they've ever gotten in that virtual environment, the last event being here this fall. And we would never have done that had we not had this pandemic. And so we were able to end up reaching a larger audience, and especially I think to the level of our members who might not go to a convention. A lot of times it's the owners and the general managers who go to a convention. In this case, we were able to reach a lot of technicians and mid-level managers who otherwise don't get the communication from us. So that was really a best. But some of the other bests that were really, I think, just unique this year and had incredible impacts were the ways we were able to partner with other players in the industry. And most notably with IICRC, we worked together with them to be able to bring it's now in its 5th edition. We've also had the American Industrial Hygiene Association join us in the report on COVID disinfection to the property restoration industry. And the way that the industry came together to be able to assemble such a incredible resource for the industry in a way that was beneficial to the industry without some of the, historically, a lot of times there's these turf wars, to do that in a collaborative fashion and for the good of our members and the certificants at IICRC and the constituents of the American Industrial Hygiene Association was really unprecedented. And such a great example how we can work together. There's a lot of other stuff that happened as well for voice in the industry throughout the year. We could spend probably a whole show talking about that, but to respect the other people here on this call, I will pause there. I'll end there and kind of identify those as the best and the worst for 2020.
Thank you, Mark. Perfect. Got it just under 4 minutes. And when we come back, I'd be curious if you could let us know how it affected your own business, and maybe during the end of the second part of the show, we can talk a little bit about that. Let's go on to Larry Sloan. Larry is the CEO of the American Industrial Hygiene Association, joining us from Virginia. Welcome, Larry.
All right. Thank you very much. So I'll start again with the worst thing of 2020. And this is similar to Mark, having to host our annual conference, AIHCE, all virtually. That was a very difficult decision, but obviously because of the pandemic and the fact that the Atlanta Convention Center, which is where we were going to hold our event, became a makeshift hospital. And so we had to wait until about 6 or 7 weeks out before the actual event date in order to pull the plug because of contractual obligations. And, we got a lot of heat from folks that were saying, back in early February, mid-February, what's going on? How can we possibly have an in-person conference? And, we knew even at that early date that we're going to have to pull it, but, we just couldn't do anything and couldn't say anything publicly until 6 to 7 weeks out. Again, otherwise we would have had to pay a ton of money on attrition. Yeah. So, when we made the decision and we pulled the plug on the all in person, we had to rely on our technology, our online platform for an all virtual event. And that created problems. It was not suitable for the thousands of people that ended up attending. We got about 2,200 people signed up for the virtual conference. That's about half the number of people that typically attend the in-person event, which was fantastic. But the platform crashed on day one, which was absolutely a horrific experience for all the folks on my team that put, countless hours into developing this program and making it what we wanted it to be, a first-class event. So it was a very humbling experience. We did manage to regroup and get things back up on running the next day, but it was a blemish. And so that was definitely the worst thing of the year. The best thing of the year, however, has been the incredible grassroots support for developing this cadre of COVID-related documents. We have developed a dozen or so documents that pertain to everything from cleaning, disinfection, proper use of PPE, engineering controls, the use of real-time detection instruments, a whole list of documents that have been produced by our volunteer groups, and our Back to Work Safely program, which started with a challenge from none other than Mark Cuban from Shark Tank. And we got connected with Mark back at the end of April. And I'm not going to get into the details of how we connected with Mark, but he said, you guys are all about worker health and safety. Make something happen. Put out some guidance. And that was the genesis of the Back to Work Safely program. And to this day, we've developed 26 different documents, each one aimed at a different industry sector, aimed at the small business sector within those 26 markets. And we're in the process of translating all of these COVID documents into Spanish. So that by far has been the best thing to come out of 2020. And I'll stop there.
Fantastic, Larry. Thank you. Very interesting. We'll come back to that in a minute. Let's get to Mr. Richard Shaughnessy. Dr. Shaughnessy is the director of the University of Tulsa's Indoor Air Quality Research Program since 1987, but he's here on behalf of ISIAC and Healthy Buildings America 2021. Hello, Richard.
Hey, Joe. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. How about yourself? Welcome back. What's the best and worst of 2020 for you, Richard?
Yeah, I'll give you, I don't know from what perspective you want it, but as far as worst, I'll tell you, 310,000 people dead and counting. And it's touched all of us, family, friends, relatives. And as a scientist, the frustration of politicizing and disregard for science truly has been an uphill battle. It's been tough to not be listened to. The highs throughout the year have been dulled. The lows have been amplified. Distancing impacts. I mean, all of this has affected our families. It scarred us. It will take many years to reestablish school systems. Children have been impacted enormously. At our university, online education, it suffers. It's simply like talking into a void. Nonstop webinars, I'll tell you, have driven me up a wall. If I don't know whether it's positive or negative, but certainly the research has been accelerated, and there's been a rush on all our behalf to publish and disseminate to those who need it, that information. ISIAC, for example, had over 230 scientists that wrote a letter to WHO to emphasize the importance of aerosolization of the virus. And finally, that came into play, and we began taking a closer look at ventilation and air cleaning as a function of that. So, I mean, I could go on. It's I do get frustrated, but let's go to the best part of 2020, if there is anything positive to say. And in life as I know it, as you know it, I've never seen the importance of indoor air quality been so magnified and brought to the forefront. The principles, the foundations of fundamental acceptable indoor air sources, ventilation, air cleaning, all of this comes into play. And for the first time that I could remember, people are beginning to now accept and are being educated, openly educated, on the critical role of indoor air quality to our health and our well-being. And that's got to be a positive. That's not going to fade away. It's going to carry on because COVID may come and go, but the implications and what comes next and how do we deal with this will continue. So with that, I'll pass it on. Joe.
You know, real quick, Richard, you do a lot of work in schools. Has that had to be shut down because of this?
It's been absolutely shut down to an extent. I mean, we have continued our work on a everyday basis, working with schools. But really, it's been now education. We were in the middle. I mean, we've been doing studies related to viruses on desktops and cleaning and all of that, as you're aware, for many, many years. And we were in the middle of a study in March of 2020 where, bam, got shut down. But with that, there's been a lot of time in working with the schools to prepare them for what they're going to have to face now. So I wouldn't say it's ended as the children come and go, and we'll see what happens. But it certainly is a challenge, not only for us, but we all know for the school systems. There has to be funding to be able to deal with these upgrades and everything for the future.
Well, that could either be a best or worst there, huh? Maybe they'll get some funding and be able to do things.
Let's hope so. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Richard. We appreciate that. Let's go to Philip Roscher. He is the ACGIH Senior Director of Science, Education, and Publications. Philip, and
Yes,
coming
sir.
to us from Ohio, right? Did I get
Northern
that right?
Ohio, the North
All
Coast. Yeah,
Great
thanks,
to
John.
have you.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. So I'll start off with worst and build from there. That way we end on a
Okay.
good note. So the worst part is, and I think everybody's experienced it, so everybody's gonna agree with me on this one. There, personally, professionally, there's been that loss of togetherness. You know, Zoom fatigue is all too real now. We haven't got to go to conferences. We haven't got to break bread, have drinks, you know, anything like that builds those personal relationships. And I think it's pretty safe to say everybody's on this call because, you know, that's part of what they like about being in the industry. But, you know, their 2020 was definitely life-changing, and you can either paint that as the best thing or the worst thing never happened to you, right? So looking at it with a silver lining, ACGIH pulled through 2020 honestly as strong as ever. Thanks to great volunteers, really dedicated board members that have met more this year than they've ever met in the past. Thanks to our members, you know, we've seen our membership grow. So, you know, something that a time whenever people are really examining where their money's going, you know, where their alliances are, who they choose to work through and with, we saw people come into the fold. So we are extremely fortunate to just be surrounded by a great community. You know, one of the great things organizationally was watching everyone, volunteers, board, you know, members rise to the occasion. You know, we worked really hard this year, drank a lot of coffee, burned some midnight oil to get the field all of the science that they needed. You know, as this was unfolding, talking to industry experts, it was honestly just breathtaking from my standpoint, no pun intended, you know, as COVID's going on, that, you know, you're on the front end before the CDC is willing to say this is aerosol, you know, there's aerosol transmission. We have to start doing these things. talking to all of those experts that are saying that and trying to get that message out to the field and trying to help people, act on that information was just awesome. Working with the journal, there was a great article just out about fomite transmission, really where are we at? So it continues to push. The science just keeps evolving. And to be in the middle of that is personally amazing and just awesome for the organization. As everything shifted and all of the conferences kind of went to the wayside, there was a gap while everybody was trying to catch up. AIHA, we worked together to bring some of those missed opportunities that would have been at the conference over to our learning platform. So we had a summer series that was extremely successful, did great. Staff pulled together, amazing volunteers came for that. Bob, personal thank you to you since you're on the call. But we did in 10 weeks more education than the organization has done in the past 10 years. We flipped a switch and really started grinding on helping those in the field get that stuff that was just going to be lost to time. So the amazing speakers that worked on that really helped us through. Not going to conferences, making the shift, everybody moving to an online platform. Selfishly helped a little bit with productivity on our end. We're having more meetings, we're talking more, people are having smaller meetings more frequently, so work tends to move a little bit better. So for that reason, just looking at it that way, the TLV book has already been released. People are waiting for it in March and it's out. That way, as the calendar turns and it's January 1, you can already have the TLV, know what that's going to do to your IH program and what your response is. So whenever I say life-changing, I think 2020 was life-changing and just a great thing for ACGIH. So
Interesting. Very interesting perspective there. I'll come back. I've got another question for you, but I think we'll come back to that with the second half here. But thank you, Philip. All right, let's go to Kevin Pearson. Kevin is the chairman of the IICRC, at least until October, coming in from Texas. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, Joe, thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
Yeah, 2020 definitely threw us all a curveball. And I think that the worst part of 2020 for me was not being able to travel to a lot of these industry conventions and meet the registrants and stuff that, we've always done. And, it's a place that we gather and we, have dinner and, just get to know each other. So the other bad thing about it was back in March, we realized, hey, we got 184 approved instructors that teach in-person classes and none of them can teach. So that kind of led us into the best of 2020, which IICRC ended up coming out of very strong, had one of the best years ever of the Institute, because we instituted live streaming of classes and that took off like crazy. So we also put live chat on our website, allowed the registrants and certified firms to be able to get a hold of staff easy, because with everybody working from home, we had a issue with trying to, get the phone lines to different people and all that. So come January, the middle of January, we'll also be coming out with e-learning platform or module type learning. So it's something that the Institute's talked about for years, but with the pandemic, it just kind of forced us all to get our rear ends in gear and make it happen. And so we've had to do a couple of virtual events ourselves, but we kind of made them fun. We were able to invite all of the registrants and certified firms to our annual instructor awards program. Usually that was just held in front of or in a room with just the instructors. And so nobody ever got to see what instructor won what award or whatever. And this year we live streamed it and, made a cool event out of it. And so I think just by thinking outside the box a little bit, we were able to make the best of the year. But I tell you, without one of the best things that happened to the Institute this year was that we hired a CEO, Michael Dakduke.
Yep.
And without him there in Vegas, leading the staff, it just would not have been possible to do a lot of these things. So that's been fun. We have a lot of new technology coming down the pike to better serve the registrants. We're going to get a new website that's coming here in 6 or 8 months, and we're getting a new database. We've way outgrown our current database, and so we're in the process of doing that. And toward the end of January, well, January 30th, we'll be opening the IICRC Hall of Fame. And so that's going to be another cool event that we're going to be able to put on. So through all of that, we've been able to increase our number of certified firms. We are right around 7,000 certified firms for the Institute, which is amazing. And so, we've done a lot of good things. And then we were also able to collaborate with RIA and AIHA to come out with our COVID-19 papers, which is now in the 5th edition. And those have been very well received. We've gotten a lot of feedback from those, and restoration companies, are using them. And it's been kind of neat to see how that whole thing evolved and to get so much participation from the other groups and the volunteers. So with that, I'll let somebody else go.
Thank you, Kevin. That was perfect. Glad to hear things are still going well. And it sounds like kind of a theme, that even though the organizations have had a hard time, they're all hanging in there. They're making contributions to, the way they should be to the world and to the country. So great stuff. Let's go to Ron Morrison, get a little different perspective. He's the Director of Business Opportunity and Support for our marquee sponsor, Instascope. Ron, welcome to the show. You're in Mississippi, I believe, but close to Tennessee and Arkansas.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. We're based out of Colorado as well. As we look back in the rearview mirror at this year, there's a lot of different events that have happened, and I don't think the ripple effects of COVID is going to be felt for years, if not decades to come, or maybe a decade to come, because it's affected everybody throughout, small businesses to nonprofit organizations to our healthcare systems, and it has affected everybody in different ways. And even with the schools and how they are learning in the schools, the kids went on spring break last March and pretty much have not had a continuous education since then. And we talked about Zoom fatigued, and you can just imagine if you're anyone from K to 12, you can imagine their attention span to be able to be on Zoom. And throughout this, I think everybody's going to have the same, as COVID has hit everybody in a different way. I think that the positive thing is because unlike us that are in the IAQ community or restoration, that basically, if somebody has a problem, it's a reaction. And now the IAQ is in the forefront for everybody. It's more there. And so with that, it has created the innovations, because it's not a matter of if we will have another event like this, it's a matter of when. Hopefully it won't be in our lifetime, but being able to identify, detect, on mass transit and school systems, helping businesses to open, allowing people to understand the different things. Larry said, the protocols that they have put in place and help people do it. I think everybody is working toward a common goal, because usually when mankind has a problem, they usually find a solution and find a solution quickly about it. And I think with moving forward with the innovations that has come through this year, and then for what's going to be in the future, I think that it's going to be helpful. And at Instascope, we have helped identify a lot of things. We're working with school systems and states across the country to start, having protocols to help open up the schools and businesses and government facilities that are crucial for everybody in their day-to-day life. So that's pretty much a wrap on what I think, or I can continue to go on. So,
Well, Ron, no, thank you. I think that's an interesting perspective, and we'll come back to you for the second half here. What I'd like to do now, guys, is take a break and thank you, our sponsors, and play the halftime sponsor advertisements. So we'll be back in about 90 seconds with the second half of today's best and worst of 2020 show. Our marquee sponsor, Instascope. Do more jobs faster with the future of IAQ assessment technology, unlimited samples, instant results, and cloud-based data at instascope.co. Our association sponsors are the American Industrial Hygiene Association, Healthy Workplaces, A Healthier World at AIHA.org, the American Conference of Governmental Industrial Hygienists, Advancing Careers of Professionals in Environmental Health, Industrial Hygiene, and Safety, interested in defining their science at ACGIH.org, the Cleaning Industry Research Institute. See more deeply through science and research. Learn more at CIRIScience.org. That's CIRI science.org. The Indoor Air Quality Association, promoting the exchange of indoor environmental quality information through education and research at IAQA.org. The Restoration Industry Association, the granddaddy of the restoration industry. Network with leaders at restorationindustry.org. The Institute for Inspection, Cleaning, and Restoration Certification, IICRC, at iicrc.org. Healthy Buildings America 2021, Honolulu, Hawaii, August 10 through 12, 2021. Learn more at hb2021-america.org. Our industry sponsors, AEML Laboratories, free shipping, great pricing, same-day results, and no rush fee. Learn more at aemlinc.com. Particles Plus, particle counters and air quality instrumentation. Count on us at particlesplus.com. Healthy Indoors Magazine, a free online magazine for industry pros and consumers at healthyindoors.com. And let's not forget Gray Wolf Sensing Solutions. Learn more at wolfsense.com. All right, let's go to the second half. We've got, let's start with Mr. Lapotaire. John Lapotaire is the immediate past president of the Indoor Air Quality Association. He and his lovely wife, Lydia, have indoor air quality solutions since 2001 out of Orlando, Florida. John, welcome to the show.
Hey, Joe, everybody, it's great to be here. It's always an honor to be on IAQ Radio. This year, it's been an interesting year for the Indoor Air Quality Association. We were one of the fortunate associations to actually have the opportunity to have our annual conference in person in Palm Beach, Florida this year at the very beginning of the year. Since then, it's been all virtual, and it's been a very challenging year for Indoor Air Quality Association members. You can imagine, as we're focused on the indoor environment and COVID is wreaking havoc, the consumers and the public were reaching out to us quite a bit, and they were inundated with a million different ways to sanitize and make their homes and offices safe. So it was great to work with other industry associations who had produced documentation that we could actually disseminate to our members and help our members stay very informed. As we worked through the year, the association and our board had to work to try and figure out how we could keep disseminating information and provide education to our members. So for the brighter side of the year, we've had a tremendous increase in distance learning. We've also had, we developed a new program called the SMART program that can be accessed online on our website. The SMART program stands for Science, Methodology, Assessment, Remediation, and Technology. And if you take these little groups of online learning, you can earn the SMART badge that you can display on your website or business card. So our distance learning has really been a benefit. As Eric Shapiro said, it's incredible how much all of us want COVID to go away, but it's forced us to be a little more resourceful in how we provide our education to our members. And it's really worked out very well for us. Moving forward, we're really looking forward to our global virtual annual meeting in this next February. So from being a holdup after a successful annual meeting, we've developed a lot of online resources for our members. We've watched our membership grow. We've watched our online offering for education really take off. We've watched the SMART badge program really take off. IAQ University is proving to be really successful. So as an association, we've done a lot of work in the background to make sure that our members stay informed. We made the transition from one association management to a separate association management, association headquarters. And we can't say enough about association headquarters. Our board and our membership are very, very thankful to the help that association headquarters has given us in establishing all of these online programs and in helping us put together the IAQ Global Virtual Annual Meeting in February. That's going to be an opportunity for our members and the other associations to join us and meet with leaders from across the globe. So we're excited about the status of our association. We're still, holed up for COVID and working with our members to help deliver to the consumer the best possible approach to the COVID response.
Don, thank you. And I just want to shout out to IAQA for being a sponsor since the very beginning with Indoor Air Quality Radio, IAQ Radio, which over 14 years now. So fantastic stuff. And of course, for your support of the show over those 14 years. Let's go to Bob Krell. Bob is the founder and publisher of Healthy Indoors magazine at healthyindoors.com. Bob's got probably 4 or 5 other hats. He's also a consultant, a contractor, and a trainer. Bob, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me here, Joe. Good to see you guys all. I guess to jump right into it, talking in terms of what the worst of 2020. I was just speaking with our editor Susan Valenti, and we had a chat about that. Many of us here and many of us in the industry have been spending the past 30 years, trying to drive the whole importance of a healthier indoor environment and better indoor environmental stuff. And this year seems like it knocked us back to square one in some ways, which in a way is kind of humbling. It seems like we've been shown that the indoor environments are, of course, very important, but it's a difficult situation. With both the publication and in our live show that we started doing earlier in the year as a result of COVID, we had the chance to talk a lot about how marginalized communities were disproportionately affected by this pandemic. And to me, that's just a travesty. And, in our country as well as globally, it just seems like even to this day, some of the rollout on vaccines is really going to get to the more industrialized, affluent nations quicker. And we have a long ways to go. So without sounding totally depressing here, on a positive note, I think Richard mentioned, 2021 will be the year for education, and I would definitely second that. I think it really is. We have an opportunity like never before to drive the importance of indoor environmental issues on a global scale. So I think that's really great, and I think we need to take that opportunity to I think this is a moment in time where globally there's an opportunity for people to come together a little more, and we're gonna need to actually do that. And I'll say with Healthy Indoors, as a digital media company, and this is on the good side for us, it was advantageous to the fact that we have been in distance learning online training for 5 years, and we've been doing a digital publication for 7+ years now. We're in our 8th year. We've been live streaming events for many years. So for us to make that pivot into this situation in 2020 wasn't all that difficult. We had the opportunity to live stream over 5 industry events this past year, and obviously a lot more in 2021. So for us, that's been a good thing, and it's given us the ability to utilize some of our skills in a more robust fashion. Looking ahead to 2021, for us as an organization, we'll be rolling out our global edition of Healthy Indoors. It'll be called Healthy Indoors Global, a quarterly digital edition of the magazine that will be, again, free worldwide. But rather than being so US centric as our Healthy Indoors flagship edition is, we'll be taking more of a global stories and a global approach to things. We have some other real exciting things we'll be rolling out in January. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag early on that, but let it suffice to say we'll be doing a lot more in the digital environment, helping connect people and creating opportunities for learning and engagement. So I guess that's it.
All right. Well, thank you, Bob. Always interesting to get your perspective, and you've been more involved in the weatherization side of things as well. I'm just curious real quick, how's that? I got to assume they've been hurt bad by this, at least the people out in the field trying to go out into homes and buildings and air seal and add insulation and so on.
Yeah, it was especially challenging in the beginning. The Building Performance Association. So I was the publisher of their Building Performance Journal, which was the rebrand of Home Energy Magazine. So I worked with them, on their digital media side with that organization, and they were scheduled to have their national annual event in New Orleans, right at the apex of things blowing up, the end of April. Fortunately, and that organization derives a lot of their annual revenue from that, right? So that's a big deal to lose your national event, as I think all of their organizational representatives would acknowledge. We were fortunately able to roll it into a digital event and, have between 1,600 and 1,800 people participate in an online event. So we recovered a lot of the revenue. It was relatively successful. Knock on wood, Larry. We haven't blown one up yet, so that's hopefully we'll stay with that. But it's been tough for them, because I think any sector that does home, in building direct face-to-face type work, you can't really do that remotely, right? So this is difficult.
Well, thank you, Bob. Always great to get your perspective. We'll come back to you for 2021 thoughts in just a moment. John Downey. John is also a great friend of the show. He's with the Cleaning Industry Research Institute. He is the executive director of CIRI and also a 4th-generation president and owner of Downey's Carpet Care of Granville, Ohio. Welcome back to the show, John.
Hey, Joe. And thank you for having me on and CIRI on this show. It's very interesting listening to everybody. I was thinking as I was about Steve Spivak, who is the Science Advisory Council Chair of CIRI, just finished the second of a 2-part series, and it is titled "It Was the Best of Times, It Was the Worst of Times," based on, of course, Tale of Two Cities. And all of us really have the same experience. COVID-19 is the best of times and the worst of times. It's obviously for our culture, it is a very challenging time. And for individuals, as several people have mentioned, it is sometimes beyond difficult. It can be devastating. So, it is a very challenging time for the culture generally. But the flip side of that is that it is a time of great, kind of in a weird way, great opportunity. And it has been, I've told several people this. For CIRI, frankly, it's been, I hate to say that we profit by others' misery, but to some extent, honestly, we have, because we've been able to provide information being the type of organization that we are as a science research organization, cleaning science research organization, we've been able to provide the information that a lot of people are looking for and we're desperate to get. And I'm going back to the beginnings of this in March and April. It was honestly, as the series chairman, Jim Harris, has said, we were just fortunate, but we were fortunate in that we were going to have a symposium on March 31st in Cincinnati in conjunction with the Experience show. And in very rapid order, that went from an in-person symposium about cleaning and disinfection to a hybrid event about COVID and cleaning and disinfection to a all virtual event, live stream, all about COVID-19. Typically, CIRI, being the type of organization it is in the cleaning industry, quite frankly, we don't generate a big audience because I'm not sure we have done a good job of communicating the value that CIRI provides. But for this, we didn't really have to communicate much of anything. We just had to put on a good event. And I feel like we did. Typically, we might get 50 to 75 people at one of our in-person symposiums. And we had nearly 1,100 people attend the online or the live stream symposium. And then from there, and it went very well. It was extremely, it let people who really either didn't know that CIRI existed, or if they did know, they really didn't understand it. It gave them an opportunity to kind of experience CIRI. And I want to, one thing I'd like to do is thank several of the people on the call who were involved in their organizations. Kevin with IICRC in particular here, IAQA, John, your organization, and several others. And since then, some of the other people on this call are working with CIRI. But these organizations basically helped get the word out about what CIRI was doing. And it was extremely, extremely helpful in doing that. So to some extent, I would say, as I look at it, kind of the good thing is how the industry, and especially I think the nonprofit segment of the industry and those who are involved in it, came together and started providing really good information. Put away, Mark at the very beginning was talking about how there are a lot of egos that get in the way of things sometimes. People took their ego out of it and got to work and did things. And, you know, I guess I think that's a very hopeful sign. So while we have a lot of misery today, you know, seeds are being planted for an awful lot of good things. And I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Well said, John. Very good. Much appreciated. She's the Director of Quality Control at AEML. Christy, let's hear your best and worst.
Thank you for having us. I'm not sure if we've ever joined you on one of your shows before, but we appreciate it. After listening to everyone, it kind of seems like our perspective on this year is really no different. Definitely, we would say the worst part of this year would just be the overall theme of uncertainty. Who would have ever thought that we would be told to stay in our homes and like not go to work, right? So that was certainly something we had to adapt to. Luckily, we were able to stay open as a laboratory under the stay-at-home orders we had in effect. But as a lab, we definitely had some interesting challenges. A lot of the supplies we use day to day, like swabs and gloves, are things that were just overwhelmingly needed by the healthcare community. So that was something we had to keep in mind, making sure we were adequately stocked to perform our daily tasks, but also, not hoard supplies. We also used to host monthly in-person classes in our laboratory to keep, our inspectors up to date on their continuing education credits. So again, it seems like the rest of you are saying, this year really brought us into that online learning format. We have a couple people here who are just incredible with getting an entire platform of e-learning up and running for AEML. So we were able to provide education continuously to inspectors so that they could meet the requirements for licensing. And we're really grateful too for the sense of community that this brought us, because we have some great customers that were willing to partner with us and provide this online education just to help the community, really. So that's great. And it also expanded our reach as a company. Before in person, it creates limits. If you can't make it to the lab or you can't be there on that day, you're missing out on the education. But online learning, we've been able to expand, our offerings. So that's been great. I do think we were one of the few, after listening to everyone talk, that were able to have our annual conference in person. Back in February, we had our winter break. We hosted it down here in Fort Lauderdale right before all this craziness started. So who would have thought that would have been like the last big event we had? But we were very lucky, fortunate to be able to provide all of our inspectors with the credits they needed for their summer deadline for renewal. But yeah, I think really, like, overall, we've just been really grateful that we've been able to stay at home. The real estate market, we're located here in Florida. It's been so strong. So really, we have no complaints with how business has gone this year. We would certainly love to go back to more in-person, face-to-face contact. I know we're itching to get to go to all these conferences around the country. But really just so grateful. Nothing to complain about here.
Thank you. That's wonderful. And my wish for 2021 is that we will have more women and young people represented on shows like this and representing organizations out there. So I look forward to seeing a lot more of that. And of course, more minorities as well. It's just something that this industry, I think, and many industries need to work on. And I'm glad you were able to join us, Christy. I really appreciate it. All right, let's go to the roundup, John. All right. Hey, look, Cliff, let me go over to you first before we give everybody the lightning round opportunity here. Any final, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, my right hand really hurts. I've taken notes nonstop from the very beginning. But I just want to thank everyone, for their sponsorship and for their faith in IAQ Radio and our platform. So just thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's go to the lightning round here, real quick. Give us your thoughts on anything you want for 2021. If you want to mention your event, or if you just want to say that, hey, things are going to happen, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. Let's go ahead and do that, and let's get it. Start with Mark Springer, RIA. Hello, Mark. Do we still have you?
I'm still here. I turned my video off there. Frank was just getting tired of seeing me in the background. But 2021. So it'll be interesting to see. The only thing that I guess I would say seems to be relatively certain in the property restoration industry side. First of all, we had a lot of companies that were out, really pursuing this COVID disinfection service. And it was kind of like this new place for them to be able to add another service line in their businesses. I don't know that we as an industry have done a great job of being stewards of that. I think that there has been a lot of cases where there was maybe a bit of a over pursuit of profit there, and some we're going to see, I think, a lot of commoditization of that here in the coming year. I think that's going to affect the restorers who have been doing that, maybe in areas where they weren't especially conscientious about making sure that there wasn't any appearance of impropriety there. So I think that'll change next year. It wasn't something in my area in Montana that we had a ton of, because we just didn't have high case counts. But in the metro area, certainly we've heard many anecdotes about that. The other thing I think that will be really interesting will be to see the continued consolidation in the industry. There's a lot of property restoration companies that have been deeply impacted by COVID in a number of different ways. One is keeping their staff. They've had to have layoffs. There's been a decline in many areas in claims because frequency has dropped in many areas as people are hunkered down in their homes. And so I think there's going to be a lot of thinning of the operators, maybe that didn't have good business practices or didn't have really robust lead sources. So that will be one element of consolidation. And then probably the other element of consolidation is going to be the continued emergence of private equity in this space. We've seen so much happen with the big players who now are pursuing a lot of the smaller independents. And certainly there's dozens and dozens of private equity companies right now that have a thesis around property restoration and are trying to find any deals they could get done. So I expect that consolidation will be continuing to accelerate next year, and we'll see a lot more of that.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And thank you, Mark. And we appreciate you joining us. Let's go to Larry Sloan, AIHA CEO. Hello, Larry.
Hello. So I'm going to switch gears and talk about it from a public health perspective.
All right.
And I would say the first thing that I would offer up is, with the rollout of the vaccine and how that's all going to go, what's the role of the occupational health professional going to be with respect to the vaccine? If somebody does get sick from the vaccine, has some sort of contraindications at work, EEOC just came out with their guidelines a day or two ago that do allow, I think, employers to mandate vaccines for their workers, at least in certain situations. So what's the role of the industrial hygienist in all of that? So that's point number one. Point number two is we had a really interesting conversation with President-elect Biden's transition team for the Department of Labor, which, as you know, oversees OSHA, which has been pretty much emasculated over the last 4 years without any sort of a head. So the question for us is, what kind of influence are we going to have as a profession in advancing the agenda for OSHA? There's been some discussion about developing an emergency temporary standard for the country that might be based on the statewide ETSs that exist, including here in Virginia. So what kind of influence are we going to have in this emergency temporary standard? And are we actually going to get something done next year for COVID? And then ultimately, is that going to result in some sort of a permanent infectious disease standard, which is, I think, long overdue? So there's a lot of exciting ways that the industrial hygiene profession can plug into that discussion. And then my final point is kind of more holistic, is after COVID is hopefully a distant memory, right? And it's no longer front page news. How do we maintain worker health and safety as a front page news story? How do we insert ourselves into the public's narrative so that they don't forget about things like PPE or N95s and all the precautions that everybody has to take right now from a public health perspective? This has been a black swan, gray rhino, call it what you wish, an event for the occupational health profession. How do we leverage this, and how do we build upon this in the years to come?
Fantastic. I'm so glad we're doing this. I wasn't sure how it would go, but so far, excellent. Let's move on to Mr. Shaughnessy, Dr. Richard Shaughnessy. Richard, thoughts for 2021 if we still have you?
Hey, Joe. Yeah. I'm here. As depressed as I sounded related to 2020, I'm just as much the opposite with respect to 2021. As you know, my priorities have always been, as a scientist, looking toward applied science and trying to translate that and disseminate it into practice and get that exchange going. And scientists in the past year have been entrenched in new directions related to indoor air quality. There are new approaches. Some of the people on the call have already talked about some of their technology. There are new sensors, new models out there for homeowners that could be very useful. And the thing that I'm very excited about is healthy buildings. The conference we're doing with the International Society on Indoor Air Quality and Climate. For those of you that don't know a lot about INSEAC, it's comprised of over 43 countries, primarily scientists and academia, and it's promoting the science and putting it out there, some of the best scientists in the world. And what we're excited about is the conference we're doing in August in Hawaii, and it will be face-to-face. And that in itself does get me excited. As I said earlier, I think webinars are great and we've done excellent with them. But something is lost in the translation when you're not talking to a human being in front of you. And as an educator, I find that tremendous kind of void, a gap. And so we are so looking forward to this, having people come together again and be able to communicate. When I go to a conference, I get at least 60% of what I take away is from talking to attendees. So it's not only the focus of the conference, COVID and beyond, it's on the entire spectrum of indoor air. We'll be talking about the best of research and how that extends to practice, but as well, the best of practice in terms of how that goes to research. So it's going to be an equal exchange. We're very excited about it. I hope you go look at the website. We have one of the most respected organizing committees that INSEAC has ever assembled. We have individuals, of course, from the United States, but from France, the UK, Japan, China, Denmark, Norway, Finland, Australia, Canada, Korea, and more. And these are some of the top scientists in the world, but also we've included the top practitioners, field people that I've ever been able to come in contact with as well. So we're excited about that. And I truly am invested in it and looking forward to it. And I hope to see you there.
Absolutely. We are very appreciative of your support, and we will continue to promote Healthy Buildings America 2021. Richard, thanks again for joining us today. Let's go to Philip Rauscher. Phil, what are your thoughts for 2021?
Yeah, so to kind of mirror what Larry was saying, I think, the situation we're in has been a springboard for us, for industrial hygiene, OC health overall. But the good thing about that is we got the ball and there's an open field in front of us. So what I'm looking forward to is building those relationships. I got an email from a gentleman that he started out and said, I'm nobody special. I'm a dad who's trying to find information on what to do about COVID, what to do to protect my family and what I can do that's best for them. He's like, if I ask my family doctor, he didn't have much information. If I went to CDC, it's back and forth on there. And I don't know if that's a trusted source right now. But he said, I just found out industrial hygiene and occupational health is this field and it has this information. So I think we're standing at the edge of something that's great because people have turned and they've noticed it again. For a while there was this debate of, how much of a role does industrial hygiene play? There's more and more step towards generalists who may not fully understand some of these concepts, but this has really brought that that scope down, really magnified some of these important things. So, I want to keep pushing that, keep going until we get to that end zone. Bioaerosols as a new committee, or I guess a refurbished committee for us. They're pushing hard this year under the leadership of Don Weeks. They've really grown. They just released a monograph on sampling for bioaerosols. It's one chapter that's in the new purple book. Joe, you got the old one behind you. I don't know if we could change the color. That's such a staple now. But yeah, there you go. That one. They're working through that because what's that? I'm going to need all those notes sent to me, please. Thank you. It's out there and it's important information, and to bring it up to date, to make it, to bring it back to the forefront of everybody's mind. I think it just so happened that we're in the right place at the right time. Along with that, we're working together with some industry leaders on Atlas of fungal spores as something that can help everybody in the industry, labs, mycologists, students as they're learning, just get that information out there, know what they're looking for, know what they're looking at. Organizationally, we're doing everything we can to support that. There's a big change in software this year. We're currently implementing new databases, new learning systems, so that it's just a lot more user friendly. I think over the next couple of months, you could probably check back in with ACGIH weekly and notice that something new is rolling out. Our committees, this has really brought that once again kind of magnified the committees. We have more volunteers coming forth through the committees because they want to make a difference. International volunteers, that's one awesome thing. Bob brought it up, the accessibility of all of this now that we are online is letting people who might not have had the opportunity to travel because of local economy or company that they work for, the opportunity to connect with people, because now it's in this platform. All of a sudden you could just talk to people and see them face to face and work together on projects. Building on some of our past education with short courses. This year we're going to have an advanced industrial ventilation class because there's a need to keep driving that. Everyone's looking at it. What are we, especially now it's heartwarming to see USA Today run a special on, ventilation. I don't know how many of my friends and family sent me that and said, "Is this what you do? This is that thing?" And so all of a sudden, yeah. So it's been great to get the spotlight for all of a couple seconds. So, pushing forward with the bioaerosols, just helping everybody in the field. Now that this has been turned on us, I think that we're in a great position to really be able to keep the momentum and just help people understand it better that might not have been a huge fan of the industrial hygiene field in the past. So.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us, Phil. It's great to have you, and it's been an interesting show. Let's go to Mr. Ron Moore. Oh no, Kevin Pearson, IICOC chair. Can't forget Kevin down there in Texas.
Thanks, Joe. So 2021, I think we're going to be concentrating on what our new CEO, Michael Dakjuk, has put into place in our strategic plan. And it really involves around technology and the use of that and upgrading our current technology. If you've been around the Institute at all for any length of time, you know that we've in the past always seemed to be behind technology. So we're trying to catch up to today's standards. And the other thing is we really wanted to concentrate on our international registrants and the certified firms that we have internationally. And one of the things that we're doing in that realm is we've gone out to Standards Australia to try to get a couple of our standards recognized by them. And that's the S500, the water damage standard, and the S520, the mold standard. So we're in the process. We've submitted our application. We also had over 150 letters of support that were sent in from our registrants down in Australia and New Zealand to Standards Australia to kind of make this happen. So we're excited to see where that's going to go. And then our third part of our strategic plan is customer service. And we've kind of implemented that with our live chat. And, you know, we in years past, customer service had been lacking. And one of the things that we really wanted to concentrate on was getting people the certifications when they need it and when they expect it. And so lastly, I will be also bringing back chats with the chairman, my little radio show or whatever you call that thing that we put together. I think it was more comedy than anything, but but we did have a lot of fun, and hopefully people learned a little bit something about the Institute too. So we will be bringing that back in January.
Kevin, thanks again. Thanks for joining us and for your support of the show. You guys we really appreciate it. Let's go to Ron Morrison, Instascope. Let's get your thoughts for 2021, Ron. If we still have you.
Yes, sir. Well, hey, we're getting one day closer to being back to normal. Hey, as every day goes by.
There you go. There you go.
You know, I do agree with Larry talking about the protocols for indoor health for basically everybody is now in the forefront. I think that in 2021, there's going to be a renewed interest in that. And with all the collaboration with everybody coming together and providing solutions for everybody and it being on the forefront of everybody's mind throughout there. I do think that there's going to be a little bit of a bump in there because you got to think of all the buildings and businesses that have been shuttered through all this time. And they have been maintaining those buildings. And we all know what happens when there's going to be a little bit of I think a little bit of uptick in work for people in the restoration business and the IAQ community as those businesses open or the buildings get back to normal because it's kind of out of sight, out of mind right now with a lot of people. On the Instascope front, we have some major stuff that we are working on right now. Hopefully that it will be in the first quarter of next year. It will be released of what we're working on once all the scientific data is analyzed and peer reviewed, that we're looking, getting closer and closer to a true indoor health speciation in real time. So that's something that we're really looking forward to. Put a lot of research and a lot of money into it, and hopefully that will be, that will be a new innovation that will come out in the first quarter of next year. So.
Fantastic, Ron. Great to have you on, and we look forward to talking again.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Mr. Lapotere, John Lapotere. I think he's still with us, but actually, I just got my computer back up. It took of an hour and a half for it to update and do whatever it needed to do. Do we have Mr. Lapotere still with us?
I am here.
There he is. Okay, John, 2021, buddy.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to putting 2020 behind us. It's been a tough year for a lot of people, but for the indoor environmental practitioner, this year has been by far the busiest year we've ever had. It's interesting that our year has been substantially slower on the restoration side. And the theory behind that, when we talk to a lot of the restoration contractors, is that with everybody staying home, if you have a flood, you catch it so quickly that you don't need professional restoration. Yep. So a lot of the restoration companies literally have people sitting at home. They're running skeleton crews. But for the indoor environmental practitioner, with people stuck in their homes, they're recognizing things. They're filling their homes with people for a longer period of time and realizing that there are issues with their homes that they need to find somebody to fix. And as they weed their way through the myriad of people that are possible professionals that can provide correction and direction, they end up making their way to people that are in the indoor air quality field as a profession. And we're able to help them work on things from as simple as housekeeping to ventilation, their filtration. It's amazing how much people take for granted when they're not at home that often. People that are in their offices today, and in Florida, we have quite a few people back in their offices working. They're extremely concerned about their ventilation and their ventilation rate and the condition of their air conditioning systems. So for us, it's been very busy. It's going to be very busy for the Indoor Air Quality Association members going into 2021. We're looking forward to expanding our online education to include more building science and more air conditioning and more infectious disease. And we hope to start next year off with a wonderful global virtual annual meeting in February. But it's been a tough year, but I think it's also been a pretty good year for us as an association with association headquarters. So moving into next year, we're on the ground running and ready for more online education and disseminating much of the information that we've talked about on this program to our members. One of the things that we want to make sure that our members understand is that we are a clearinghouse for vetting and providing the leading information when it comes to things like COVID. So we're excited about 2021.
Thank you, John. Always great to have you with us. Let's go to Bob Crow. Hey, Bob Crow, what do you think? This ought to be interesting. 2021, Bob.
Yeah. Well, I mean, first off, I think, it's incumbent upon all of us, right? And organizations, right? All of you associations and professional organizations, you got to think outside the box in 2021. If anything, this COVID pandemic illustrated the fact that, business as usual sometimes can get upended, and things that used to work don't necessarily work going forward. Many of you mentioned in your spiels, the Zoom meeting fatigue, right? We're all experiencing that. Maybe I'm jaded because I've been doing Zoom for 5 years, but the reality is that we need to communicate in different formats and unique ways to reach our audiences. And again, I'm not so sure that all of the ways we've been doing things over the years is the way to do that. The other thing that I think is really important is that this COVID-19 pandemic introduced the world's consumers to our industries collectively, right? Consumers have never been so hyper-focused on indoor environments, at least not in our lifetimes. So this is a great opportunity, right? This is an opportunity. It's a challenge. We need to continue to engage the general consumers globally. And that's something that's been, to put it mildly, sadly lacking in my entire time I've been in the industry. I have never seen anybody successfully do that. And I think that's super, super important because honestly, we're all consumers on one level, right? So again, we can talk back and forth, practice to industry, research to practice and all that stuff. That's all well and good, but where the rubber hits the road is actually where the millions upon billions of consumers are actually affected on a daily basis. I will say with Healthy Indoors, we're doing some, I teased it a little bit. We do have a global edition that's we've been holding it back and we're going to release it starting in January. But we have a lot of other stuff that we're going to be doing to that same end of creating engagement opportunities on a global scale to be able to engage academia, the professionals in the industry, and most importantly, the end consumer. So that's where we're at. Try to get some sleep too in 2021 if possible.
Yeah, why not? Why don't you sleep a couple days here and there, Bob? I don't know how you do it, buddy. Thank you, Bob. Really appreciate it. Let's go to Mr. Downey, John Downey, SERI Cleaning Industry Research Institute. John, what do you think? What do you see for 2021?
Well, once again, thank you, Joe. In 1993, Dr. Michael Berry wrote a book. The name of the book was Protecting the Built Environment, Cleaning for Health. In the book, Dr. Berry described the value of cleaning for public health purposes. And he went all the way back back hundreds of years to where we came to realize that things need to be clean if we're going to stay healthy. And if we keep things clean, we will be healthier. Berry's book kind of, for a lot of us, opened our eyes to a different vision for the cleaning industry. but since 1993, that vision is mostly, to a large extent, has been unrealized. And what Bob just said a second ago about the consumer, I think is really important. Part of the reason it went unrealized is that we did not reach out to the consumers, or the consumers did not see the cleaning industry. Very good. Yes. Consumers did not see the cleaning industry as a part of consumer health. Basically, everybody looks at cleaning as an appearance issue. If it looks clean, it is clean. If it smells clean, it is clean. But that's not always true. And the thing about the pandemic is, I think it made a lot of people realize and recognize that cleaning it, there's more to cleaning than a superficial look at it would suggest. So as I think of 2021, I think of it being an opportunity, another opportunity for the cleaning industry to some extent redefine itself as a, I don't want to overplay it, but to some extent, we're important contributors to public health, and we need to conduct business in a way that is responsible. And if we do that, I think we will we will gain a level of prestige that the cleaning industry has really, at least in the United States, has never had. Oh, one other thing, real quick. I just want to add on Healthy Buildings 21. CIRI is the host organization for that. We are focused on practitioners, including contractors. And I want to say that, and I've been working with Richard and Carrie Kinney and the rest of the organizing committee on Healthy Buildings. And this is going to be special. And I really hope that we can get behind this. And especially when I say we, I'm talking about people involved in the process of cleaning and disinfection and restoration and remediation, because that is, where ISIAC, where these academic researchers can do really good things, is if their research connects with the needs of the people that actually do work in the field related to indoor air quality, indoor environmental quality. So I'm sorry, I went a little bit over, but.
No, that's very well said, John. We appreciate that. Hey, let's wrap it up. And I'm glad we did it this way. Christy Brueggemann. Christy, I hope you're still with me. Yeah, I see you there.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I'm still here.
I want you to give us your 2021, but before we go, I want you to think about and let me know, and maybe you can't do it on the spot like this, but how do we get more people like you involved in this industry and in the leadership of this industry?
Oh, wow. So I'll just be honest, I completely fell into this job right out of my undergraduate degree, and I had plans to work in the healthcare industry. In fact, I did go back to nursing school, and I worked as a intensive care nurse for 2 years, and have since, I kind of thank my lucky stars sometimes. I came back to the lab just about 2 years ago. So I kind of was able to not work, as a frontliner pretty much during this pandemic. I honestly think that, like most of you have said, that this isn't an industry that most people really understand what we do or the importance of it. And really this pandemic has done us all a favor by shedding light on how important we are. Because my 2021 predictions, I think, we all have our own personal opinions on whether or not we should get this vaccine if we're lucky enough to have the choice to, whether that means, being required to by employers or even having it available. I do think that with the invention of this vaccine, a lot of people are going to feel more comfortable going out into spaces with crowds of people. But with that, it's also, they still want to feel that extra layer of security and know that the ventilation is adequate in rooms. And I think that's going to really give our industry a strong 2021 and beyond, because I really do think standards or minimum standards are going to change for large gatherings. And I know everyone here talks about how excited they are to travel to like these Healthy Building Summit, and but we're all humans. We all have our own unique circumstances, and whether you have family that's immunocompromised or you yourself, you know, feel unsafe in a certain way, you're going to want to show up to this conference and feel safe, right? So I think even us as individuals, it's made us feel a little like we're working in an industry that really does have great value to ourselves and others. So to answer your question about how to get more younger people involved, I think it starts with education in universities, because I graduated 10 years ago, and I don't remember learning much about indoor air quality when I was studying biology. So I think maybe if more advertising were done at that level, it might, you know, attract a new wave of practitioners.
And maybe even if we get into the high schools and start to, you know, I know AIHA and other groups have programs where, you know, they have science fairs, and AIHA or others provide judges for the science fairs, just so people, you know, get to know who we are and what we do. I agree. That's great stuff.
And I think even now students, I mean, their lives have been upended too, right? Like how do you explain to a young child why you have to sit at a dining room table and go to school now? You can't go to a classroom. So I think that there's a level of understanding now that that would open the doorway to explaining, you know, how viruses can be transmitted, you know, through air sometimes. And that might reach a, you know, younger generation as well.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us today, Christy. I want to thank
you for
everybody.
having us.
Before we go, the Z-Man, final thoughts.
Thanks, Joe. I have two final thoughts that really I didn't have before the show, but I got during the show. The first one, I think, is a response to what John Downey said. And, you know, the public doesn't understand what we do. And, you know, it's kind of our job to explain to the public what we do. John, I think what we do is provide labor. And that's really about all we do. And as part of providing this labor, we apply products. And I believe that the products are what makes these homes safer. It's what removes the soils and so on and so forth. So I think it's really incumbent on the big product manufacturers, the Procter and Gamble's and these other people that make the soaps and make the detergents and so on and so forth, you know, to create the awareness. And I think once they begin to create awareness, I think that will register with the customer rather than an individual cleaning service or maid service doing it, because no matter what we do, I'm not sure that, you know, we'll ever have enough money, you know, to get the recognition. The second comment goes to Larry Sloan, and, you know, was talking about the new administration and OSHA and so on and so forth. And I want to ask you, and I can't really see all your faces, if have any of you heard of Safety Third? I hadn't heard of it either. I was watching television the other night, and most of you know Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs. Yep. And Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs has gotten behind a program called Safety Third. And when he was on Dirty Jobs doing the job, he and his crew got injured a number of times. And the reason that they got injured is that they, like the employees who work for cleaning companies and restoration companies and work in big industry and factories, kind of expect the employer to keep them safe. You know, they gave me this respirator, they showed me how to wear it, they gave me these gloves, they gave me the PPO, they gave me this class for 8 hours, and now I can forget about it because it's the employer's responsibility. And this Safety Third is about making it the employee's responsibility to, number one, keep himself safe first. Number two, keep the people that he's working with, safe second, and follow the laws and the rules and regulations third. And I just thought that it was really, really a brilliant point. And I think if, Larry's organization and the other organizations can, when you get somebody on television who's actually doing this, you can Google safety third, and, they even have masks that say safety third on it. But I think that would be a phenomenal opportunity and something that would be meaningful in terms of getting workers and getting employees to realize that their safety is their responsibility.
Well
So
said,
that's it, Joe.
Fantastic. Hey, this is Radio Joe Hughes saying thanks to this week's guest. What a great show. Really enjoyed it. Mark Springer, Larry Sloan, Richard Shaughnessy, Philip Rauscher, Kevin Pearson, Ron Morrison, John Lapotere, Bob Krell, John Downey, and Christy Brueggemann. Thanks all for joining us. We're going to take a little holiday break. We'll be back the first Friday after the new year, and we'll be back for the next year. I guess this is year 15 of IAQ Radio Plus. So please come back in 3 weeks and join us for the next live episode of IAQ Radio Plus.
For IAQ Radio, I'm Spike Reel saying thanks for listening.